meet at some point next week, few days. So we will already see each other on Tuesday, but we're also proposing to meet with you on Wednesday and Thursday, knowing that next Friday is a day off in Paris as well, in France. I mean, it is our Second World War or First World War celebration kind of event. So Friday next week is closed, but if you're willing, we will be organizing additional session on Wednesday and Thursday, all of us, to fine-tune and finalize the simulation model all together. It's not going to be possible today. You're going to work on it this weekend, but then we are not expecting you to finalize everything, so do not worry. Before we start, do you have any question? And perhaps, Talia, would you like to add something?
No, I would just like to say thank you so much for joining us for the second day in a row. It's really great to see you, and I know we're expecting a few additional participants. As Deanne said, we'll move ahead with what we can today, and we're very happy to propose these additional meetings for you next week. I mean, I think one thing that came out sort of loud and clear for me from yesterday's session was that participants, you very much felt that the workload was quite heavy, and in hearing that, we want to accommodate you and make sure that you have the support that you need. So that's really the motivation behind us offering these additional sessions. And of course, we understand that you have, your own workloads and professional and private lives to manage. So we understand if you're not able to make it to every session, in the additional sessions at least. But we just wanted to make that available to you, should you wish to join us, so that we can work and move ahead and make sure that you have a firm understanding of what we're doing together and of the simulation model content. So just basically that. I'm not sure, Deanne, if we want to wait for a few more people before starting. Maybe one other question would be,
the problem is George is not here.
Yeah.
Let me see if he has a problem connecting.
Okay. And maybe in the meantime, for the other participants, is everybody clear on who your persona is, on what your role is? Have you had the opportunity to, take a look at the list and get a sense of who you're going to be today? Because if not, now is a moment to let us know, so that before we start out, we can be clear on who exactly is going to take on which role. So if you haven't yet had that opportunity to familiarize yourself, just let us know. And if not, hopefully you're all clear and ready to go in the character that you'll be playing today. Okay.
Anyone? So George has a problem connecting, so it's good that you're all clear with your group, your role.
I also see, Deanne, that it doesn't look like we have Milton connected either. I know he had said that, he would be unable to join for part of it, but I thought he would come at the beginning. So I'm not seeing him yet either.
So we are missing our Minister of Education and Minister of Finance today.
Very important. They're very important roles. They have other commitments.
So Alberta is joining.
Wonderful.
But you don't have any. Okay, you feel comfortable with your role, but in any case, you will be able to practice it today. So do not worry.
Great.
So let me just share that again with George. So that. Yeah, those links might be a little bit confusing sometimes. He lost connection. Oops. So, yeah, we will have to start at some point, because it's already almost 10. So let's wait 2 minutes for George to join in, and then we would start. And in case George is not there, so Milton is not there as well, right?
No, not that I see.
So I will ask Augustine to step in, and with Amina to start processing, to start with the discussion. So just for your record, how we're going to do that. So we have 2 sheets, the upper secondary one that the upper secondary group worked on, and the TVET one. So we just have taken your targets and put them in this consolidated version. For group on upper secondary, I have revised a little bit the textbooks line in order for us to see better the the textbook pupil ratio. So it's here, sorry, where it is. And then we will review together what it means. Okay, so here you will see, you remember it was the discussion we had yesterday about, because that is one of your indicator you want to track. Also, for your group, you remember we had this discussion to increase the number of teacher training from 1,000 to 100 from 100 to 1,000. So I just updated that. But let's not get into those nitty-gritty details. We have, as you remember, we have 6 blocks: one of students, one on classes and teachers, one on recurrent expenditures, so that includes issue related to salaries, issue related to teaching and learning material, teacher training, maintenance, and one on subsidies, which include subsidies to some private sector, to as well public schools, as well school feeding program. And then we have the capital expenditure block that relates to construction and rehabilitation. And then we have the recap. The same structure was done for TVET. And then we have here in the expenditure summary, what is the total cost of your plan that is compared to available resources. And at the end of the day, it is here that we have the gap, okay? And we will ask you, and we have to see, right now we are not going to discuss the gap today, because we would like you first to really make sure that we have an initial set of targets that you think that you would like to achieve. Because right now you have been very parsimonious. You have been a little bit, so there is almost no gap. And the idea really is to discuss where to cut. So right now, if we look at what you're doing, you are not really pushing your system to more. So, but that's what we will discuss. So what we aim today, we have almost 2 hours together. We will take 1 hour for one group and 1 hour for the other group, but it will be a whole discussion. It's just because that's the way we do when we discuss a simulation model. We do it sheet by sheet, so subsector by subsector, and then we look at the gap, and then we go back to the targets. So first, to have a common understanding what you aim for, we will ask you to describe what you are expecting to do. I don't know if George and Milton are here. So if not, I will ask Augustine, if you may want to step in, and I would like you to explain, so to start discussing for upper secondary, this first block about the transition. You see here, there is a transition from upper secondary, from lower secondary to upper secondary that include both streams, general and TVET stream. And once we have this transition, we are splitting. A group will go for TVET stream, another will go for general stream. We had done the same for TVET, but you see, both the transition and the targets are not the same, because of course, the TVET groups want more, whereas the upper secondary want more. So I will have you, Augustine, to explain what you want to do. And then Amina, since you are the director of TVET, explain your your rationale behind those two targets, about the transition and about the share going to TVET. And then we need to refer, though, to what is in the policy of the Ministry of Education, because there are some statements about the share of privates of TVET within that. So I'll leave it to you, Augustine, and then Amina, to launch this discussion on these two targets. So, Augustine, is it clear what we are asking you?
Yes.
Okay, so please go ahead.
Okay, so let's go. Well, maybe in absence of our Ministry of Education, and
You are doing the interim.
some theater.
You are doing the interim.
So with my commitment here is to advocate for the need that we have in our plan for improve the secondary level that we have in our country as a key factor for the development of our strategy, as mentioned in the Windowland Education Sector Plan, which is try to have the focus on this upper secondary and in their transition. So this is why it's important to reflect these numbers and this increase in our simulation model to present to our Ministry of Finance for their approval and improvement. So the transition rate that we have here in general, we have a 91.2%, and the enrollment going to general ultimate is 69. So this is our target, but it's still far of the ideal situation that we want our students really to increase. So even if this can appear a higher number, is still far or what we really need with respect to the transition to secondary, but we can agree on the numbers that we have there. So
so what is interesting with your scenario, you are moving from let's take the baseline 2020. So your new enrollment will be from 79,000. Oh my God, is it decreasing?
Is increasing. The final point is
oh yeah, it's increasing. Yeah, it's here. So you're increasing a little bit. No, I'm looking in terms of new enrollment, and you are increasing very slightly your number of students. So indeed, you could be more ambitious, huh?
So the need, as per the Windowland plan, they say that the main concern is the enrollment, or keeping these enrollment rates, get our students in their pathways for vocational education, tertiary education, because it's when we are losing those students.
Yes.
So in what conditions, what we need to do to increase this enrollment. So if we can be more ambitious, probably we can increase the general for 69, for example, to 75%. Just as
so here, I would like us to go back to Windowland case. In Windowland case, there is a statement on the share of TVET. But perhaps before we go to that, Amina, can you, so you in your group, you have been more ambitious. So really now it's what we call the trade-off. We need to discuss and agree together what level of transition you want from lower secondary to upper secondary. Right now, you are close to 81%. And indeed, you want over the next 5 years, or how many, 8 years of the plan, whatever, you want to almost make this transition universal. Now you have seen that for the upper, so the director of secondary has been less ambitious because it's already important to move from 82 to 91. Also, in terms of additional people, additional students, is not that much. So now, can we have your argument, Amina, why you think that aiming for 99% transition is doable? And what do you do to ensure that? What is your plan? Is Amina here? I did not check, actually.
Yeah, she's on the call.
Hello, good morning to everyone.
Hi, Amina.
Hi, Amina.
Yes. I think my role was to push for, improve enrollment and promotion rates while drastically reducing repetition and dropout rates. For me, the TVET in general, enrollments are always very low. The transition rate is very low. And it's good to have bigger ambitions so that when you are dropping, at least you fall within average. So that was why we proposed for that higher transition rate. So what do I say?
But then I would like, so I'm trying to go back to Vindoland. I think there is, in Vindoland, there is a statement about what the share of, but I cannot retrieve it. What is the share of the private, of TVET? I think they said that, so you have to, it's an education, it is in the Education Act, I think. So we have to follow that policy. Okay, so can someone go back also to Vindoland and try to, yeah, it is in my, but I don't want to, it is in my, on my computer somewhere. I want us to retrieve that information. Can you go back to Vindoland and see where this information is? Because that's what you also need to, is at the end of the day, your ESP needs to be fully aligned with what are the policies of the Ministry of Education.
I can't trace that Vindoland document.
Yeah, there is the statement. Yeah, going. Sorry, I'm opening my also my file.
I'm trying to take a look as well.
6.3, which is called budget allocation on page 38.
38.
They
Thanks,
talk about
Augustine.
the decade of the how go primary, tertiary, the percentage.
Okay,
of
hold on. I
DPT.
have it also somewhere.
I can share my screen or
Yes, please let me
Please
unshare. Stop
faster.
sharing, please. Yeah, it will be faster. Sorry, I mean.
This bigger. Okay, so there's a chapter called like budget allocation, and they make a reference to the 1999 Act. And they say basic education is 74.4 of the budget. So
No,
has
there is a
recently decreased.
statement. There is a statement. Sorry, I need to just, sorry, I was not, personally, I'm sorry about that. I should have come, prepared. But there is a statement where it says that the share of TVET within upper secondary should be 30% or 35%. I just need to retrieve that. I have notes, just need to read my notes quickly. And that's about the budget. So the budget is not a share because TVET costs more than, usually TVET costs more than secondary education. So it will not be fully reflected in the share. Sorry, it's somewhere. Oops. But in any, yeah, it's important.
Says that it should be 50. I found it 35 page. It says,
yeah,
therefore, the government's policy to increase the share of TVET schools at upper secondary level to
yes.
50%.
Oh, it's 50%. Okay.
Yes. 35,
okay, thanks.
page 35.
Page 35.
Page 35.
Thanks, Roshini. So, okay, so I guess TVET people, you were correct. So, director of secondary, how are you going to now? You need now
page
to
35. Page 35.
35, okay.
35 upper section is 35. Yeah. Here it is given.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so you see.
Fourth line.
So thanks a lot, Roshini. It's exactly so. So that's what the TVET people did. Now you see for secondary group, there is a kind of trade-off that is necessary because it's true that expanding TVET from this low level to 50, and that's a question we will ask our colleagues. Do you think it's feasible to expand to that level the share of TVET stream over the next 8 years? given that you're starting, okay, let me just share now, or you may want to share the screen, or let me share the screen, perhaps. Yeah. So now it's the whole issue, to what extent, and this is really critical because that's real life discussion. I mean, when you have to expand TVET, usually when it starts from, already it's 35, and then you want to expand to 50. Do you think, so far we can leave it at that, but we will need to, so first we need to discuss, shall we keep it 50, or shall we reduce it to something that is lower? So now it's really a discussion between the group on TVET and the group on general education. You need to fend for your portfolio now. So Augustine, what is your argument to ensure that you get more and they get less?
The type of arguments, well, I say what is better for our country or for our system, in a sense that my arguments can be based on the pathways that we can find for from lower to upper secondary and from TVET, also for the different levels of TVET. So I think the primary goal should be at least put the effort in the lower secondary and guarantee that our students are able to at least complete the lower secondary and later decide if they go for TVET. So put the specialization on TVET, but on the upper level of the TVET, but guarantee that these students can have the opportunity to complete the lower secondary and decide after that. The arguments normally is for in the vocational SIM or for the students to find their pathways in their lives or in their professional career, which is the deciding point for them for go for a TVET or for go for a vocational studies. And in my argument, if we let them to get a strong foundational skills to decide a bit later, we're talking about 2-3 years later, which are the vocational area that they want to choose, I think there will be better format, and they can also get these TVET studies with more foundational study and for foundational basement to take this career in TVET.
So if I'm clear, you are saying that to transition to post lower secondary TVET, so it's too early, and you would advise, to have more TVET at university level? Is it what you're mentioning? Because here we are discussing already this shift. I mean, this kind of split.
So the argument in a split is just find arguments on when is the best point to start a vocational career, and it's a discussion that happened in so many countries, and which are the ideal age for a student or the ideal grade or level for students to start TVET studies. So the argument for my department could be to put the effort and the strong in the general lower secondary studies, and later give the opportunity to kids to go on the TVET. So not start by 50-50, maybe start with something more balanced into the general studies, and later move into the TVET ones.
Yeah. What colleagues do you think? At the same time, a law is a law. So it should be abiding. It should be a binding thing. So I think here in group 1, you have decreased TVET. This is not possible because indeed the aim at some point is we have to respect the law until the law is changed. I would like to have perhaps Talia, would you like to add something, or colleagues you would like to jump in this discussion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, perhaps Amina would like to defend the TVET role, but I would just really like to emphasize that you have a very strong starting point for your argument, Amina, because as Deanne mentioned, if there is indeed this government policy to increase the share of TVET schools at upper secondary level, then that suggests that we should be going in that direction. So you already have a very solid base. In addition to, I mean, as it came across in the Vindeland study, I think that oftentimes, and we discussed this a lot within our group, sort of the social image of TVET, that perhaps there needs to be a little bit more, additional efforts need to be made to kind of increase this image, but that it is very valuable. There are economic arguments. I think that you have a very strong point, Amina, for arguing for the share of TVET to be maintained at 50% as proposed by your group. But I just wondered if maybe, Amina, if you'd like to jump in and add anything to that.
Yes, no, TVET education is key to national development. And anybody getting quality TVET education at that point, even if they can't move to higher education, they will be self-employed. And that will reduce the numbers of unemployment in our communities. So TVET education, if we invest a lot in TVET education, we're going to gain much at the end of the day, because a lot of people will be self-employed. And they may not necessarily need to go for higher education, not necessarily, because most people don't get the chance to continue their education at the higher level and higher education level. So they drop out at the upper secondary level, and then they have no skills. They have nothing to help them to live in an independent life. So for me, investing more in TVET education is very important. And if we increase the numbers, that will help us as a nation. And then also try to reduce as much as we can the dropout rates at that point, and by maybe supporting the students with grants and other things. So we need a lot of investment in that area. For me, it's very key. It's very key. So even 50 for me, but that's okay. 50 for me, if we're able to get that for a beginning, that's okay. But as we move on in future, maybe we can increase these rates more
50
than
will be the
50. But for
maximum you will
now,
get. 50 will be the
yes,
maximum according to the law. But perhaps my
according to the
question,
law, 50 is the maximum, right? So if you're able to hit the 50, that is okay.
but do you
So
think this is feasible? Because now it's about the pace.
yes,
you
it's
were increasing by
feasible. It's just about closing the gap. And as far as the finance is concerned, we need to mobilize resources effectively so that we can support and the budget, and so that we can achieve this 50%. If we believe we can do it. So for me, the 50 is we must hit it. It's a must. No,
okay.
it's
So
not a request, it's a must.
So is there a consensus across the groups to get to that 50%?
Excuse me, if we just ask for more, if we can get that, I think because all the higher officials will be here, if we can pass the law, I think now it's 50. Can we change it? I'm Priyanti. Okay. Can we discuss it like that? I don't know. I'm just asking. Can we?
I think everything is feasible. Perhaps if so, George is here, so the Minister of Education could tell us, the Minister of if there is some
Yes,
how do I say,
if we are capable of, yes, because I today my role is Director of Girls Education NGO, not a government officer, but I have an issue here because when we think of girls, upper secondary level girls, that percentage is 67. So it is very low when compared with lower secondary general education. So if they have a chance in this sector, they can have better lives and they can go in that direction. And if we have more monies allocated in this direction. So just to inform you that. Okay.
So for you, Priyanti, you would be interested in ensuring that, for instance, in the transition rate,
Yes.
you have as much as girls as boys. This is not reflected right now in the simulation model. So it is something you may want to tell the minister and the directors that, okay, this is not there, but I would like to see, we have not done a gender model, but you could tell them that at least in the document you will write, it is properly spelled out. Okay, so, and perhaps you may want also to ask that the law is mentioning gender parity as a major aspect. Okay? But we will come back to, so we have the Minister of Education, George. Would you like to respond to Priyanti's concern? So she's the head of an NGO fighting for gender equality in school and asking to revise the law in order to properly tackle the issues of girls. What is your response, George? Did we lose George?
I think we might have. Just to note, we
Okay.
do also have
Okay.
Milton who was able to connect. So we do have the Minister of Finance as well. Thanks for joining us,
Well,
Milton. I know you're running around this morning.
Okay,
So
I
thank you.
think let's move on. Okay, we need now to agree on this 50%. So upper secondary group, I think our colleagues from TVET have strong arguments, and the fact that we have the law is in their favor. So what is your decision on that? Yeah, Augustine, please do go.
So just quickly on the arguments and to Priyanti in representation of the girls' education endeavor, just a quick questions. What will be more benefit for girls' education in our country is for them to get enrolled in the secondary or to get enrolled in Tibet is the question. The second one is what are the returns that we are getting for the Tibet? And my proposal is yes, if there is a law and we need to go with this law is fine, but if we can commit to really see the outcomes of this policy in a near future, to see what results is given, this moving this percentage for the Tibet in the sense to really to prove if this model is getting the results that we expect, is if in fact the students that finalize in Tibet are getting like decent jobs, accessing, get more favor. I cannot argue against that, but my option is that we need to prove that this assumption is correct. So I can agree on moving to this 50% and go with the law, but with the commitment for the ministry and for the civil society organization to really make sure that we have the tools to prove that this model is getting the results that we want for our girls and for the rest of the students on the just for the lower secondary and for the Tibet.
Tibet people, Amina, what do you think? I think Augustine has raised very strong arguments, and I fully agree with him, is that at the end of the day, if you invest in Tibet, you have to make sure that it's payoffs. So it provides the quality needed, that the relevance. So you will have to make a strong case. We will be able to discuss that throughout the days, what you are planning to do for Tibet to make it state of the art. I think that's something we can discuss over the next days together. And I agree with Augustine, if we find out that, you know, at some point you're not fully ready to go upscale, we might perhaps need to revise this target a little bit downward in order to ensure you are creating the strong foundation and not spinning. You know, we don't want here to increase access to the expense of quality. Very important. Okay. So what about the transition? Here we have it at 91.1. Here it was 99. What do you think would be more doable? I think you can aim for more because there are very few students. Actually, you see, we are in a situation where we have seen a kind of decreasing population. So you are not in a very fast increasing population. It's even, you know, it's increasing very slowly. So I think you have room for expansion. But indeed, you remember there are issues with classrooms. So it's also the issue to access. So this will very much depend on your ability to build new schools and new streams. So can we come quickly to an agreement here so that we can move to the what would be, shall we cut the peer into two, 95%, and then we'll see later? What do you think, colleagues?
I see one. Yes. Augustine in the chat, 95. Anyone else? Meeting halfway, compromising? Okay.
I think 95 is fair. I support that as well.
Okay. So,
Great.
yeah, so now we will ask, let's turn to the block 1 of student. So we will ask Augustine, oh no, George, we can ask George first, and then Augustine will be later. Yeah, we have assigned roles for you. We have predefined roles. So George is here, or we lost him. Oh, I think he has trouble.
I think we might have lost him again.
Okay, so perhaps, okay, Augustine, can you pop in and then explain how you want to move this enrollment forward for secondary. So you go and explain all the targets.
Okay, so enrollment is critical for us, and also the combination of transition and enrollment is as per the Biderland case or the Biderland plan. We need to increase this transition because this is where lost in the majority of our students as per the document in this aim. So the repetition, the target of the repetition grades that we have there, I think we can lower or get it lower or like tolerate less repetition rate. Again, for example, when we go in grade 12, we can again increase the graduation rate till 95%, just assuming as a principle that we can move in a 5% of tolerance on, because I'm referring to the
we lost you, Augustine. We lost Augustine. Today is difficult. But before,
Yeah.
I would like just to step in and perhaps just remind you what is this promotion, repetition, dropout rate. When you add them all, they make up 100. So 100 kids, some will promote, some will repeat, some will drop out. So that is why we have certain targets related to those. So yeah, Augustine, do we have you back?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, first. So Augustine, can you indeed go one block by block? So the issue of promotion, the issue of repetition, and what is your assumption? And be clear with you can say, yeah, we are moving from 5% to 3.2.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
My proposal is to move on the promotion rate for grade 12 in the graduation rate, moving from 91% to 95% as getting in the first.
So 81%. It was 81%.
It's 81 and we moved to 91.
Yeah.
So, okay. So if we can keep this as a 95 or is too far?
You have to, okay, if you want to, so when you increase in promotion, at the same time, it means you reduce repetition, right? So it's fine. But the graduation rate, it's 91%. Yeah, you can be more ambitious, really. At the end of the day, you have to understand what you are putting behind to reduce. So indeed, you can reduce repetition by, for instance, doing almost automatic repetition between some grades. And this we can discuss. You can reduce dropout because you're going to do some subsidies. So indeed, you can be more ambitious because you know that in order to achieve this, you are putting in place some strategies.
Yeah. So let's.
So it's up. What do you want?
So let's put the repetition, for example, at 3. Just to
I think you can even aim for less.
2.5 or yeah.
Yeah, repetition is something that often what we notice with repetition is that it's often not a very, what we call, it's not a very good pedagogical measure, because often those who are repeating, they are not provided with additional classes or with what we call core. I mean, some how could I say, some courses to help them or to help them mitigate their difficulties. So often they are just repeating. They are put in the back of the classroom and then they will drop out. What we are suggesting in many cases is you may want also to create more automatic promotion between classrooms. For instance, 10, 11, you don't repeat. This allows to reduce repetition, but at the same time, you need to transcend perhaps after classes, after schools, specific classes to support kids. That's some measures you may want to put. In order to reduce dropout, you can also work on the dropout, as you're mentioning, because you are planning to provide kids with subsidies. So indeed, what I will leave the grade 12, you see, so you can aim for a lot of things as far as you have a clear strategy how you will deal with that issue.
Yeah. So if my team is agree, the idea is to reduce this repetition rate, that putting these measures in place. So measures that came for a change in the norm or in the framework for repetition, but also to reinforce with extra measures or support for those students. So 2.5 for grade 10, 2.5 for grade 11, and probably have like 3% for grade 12, just to go in proportional.
So when you reduce repetition, this affect enrollment, etc. Okay, that's why, but it's fine. What about dropout? Right now you had 6.4. You are kind of dividing it by 2.
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah, that's good. That's fine. Yeah.
As a target. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Okay. So what is interesting is under those. So can you? And that will be also the group for your quiz. So can you tell us, when you have all those parameters, how is this affecting overall enrollment? And how many, and following your promotion graduation rate, how is it affecting your grade 12 graduation? Can you tell us what level was the baseline, and how many more kids do you have to enroll over the next 10 years?
Yeah. So in how this affect the increase, maybe we need also to review the point you mentioned early about the size and the ratio of our current classroom.
No, not yet. No, it's here. It's the enrollment. You right now, with all this, you see how many kids you will need to have enrolled. It is this line 41. The line 41 is a recap of all the kids that will need to be enrolled in upper secondary general education. Be careful, we are just dealing with general education here, I think, right? And then, it's just for you to have an understanding of how many more seats you will need to create. I'm not talking about classroom or schools yet. How many more seats you will need? Do you get the point, and colleagues? So do you understand what we are trying to see? We are trying just to see the overall evolution of the system. And here it's about enrollment, how rapidly your enrollment is going to move. So that's why we like to look at baseline and endline. We like to see, it gives us big perspective.
Yeah. So
okay, please.
My main question, Diane, as I see the numbers in these lines, is that these enrollment numbers are decreasing. So we have in 2020 1,044,000, and by 2030 we have 1,092,000. So there are in general decreasing numbers.
And you know why? So why? It's not wrong. What is happening? Why do we have a decreasing?
It's because if we remove the repetition rates, we don't have students.
It's not only that. It's not only
No,
that.
it's if the promotion. So we just update the promotion, update the
No,
repetition,
actually,
and
it's more than that. It's because in this country case, you have a decreasing school age population.
okay, yeah.
So it's really about you have less. This is a middle income countries where the society is aging.
Mhm.
So it's not something you will find in low income countries where you have a fast expanding population. Here, it is decreasing. But indeed, if we improve, if we have higher repetition, higher dropout, you will have more or higher repetition. I would say you will have more kids in the system. But the decreasing trend is because of overall you have a decreasing school age population.
Okay.
Okay. So, but it's also interesting because when you think about that, then you need to. It gives so you might at some point need less. You might also need
Resources.
less resources, but also it's because we have increased the share for TVET as well. Okay, so TVET will get a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's and it's also that remember you are decreasing because also you get less because TVET is getting more. You had initially you were close to 67 and now you're getting 15% less. So there are a lot of things that are going on together.
Factors, yeah, that
Factors,
are decreasing my numbers. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think
so if we put here 45%, meaning what goes for TVET, you will see that your school age population is decreasing less rapidly, should be decreasing less rapidly.
is decreasing more in terms of total
it should-
size.
it
Is
should-
decreasing more.
It should decrease less rapidly then. Oh yeah, because I made it sorry, I put the wrong one. If I put 55% for you, it should decrease, it's almost stable, less rapidly.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine because for you now, you see that you will have more room for maneuver.
Yeah.
So you can be more ambitious in terms of class size, etc. Okay.
Yeah, you can have this discussion with the Ministry of Finance.
Yes, we will see the gap. We will see the gap later on. So colleagues, here's just an example for you to see how we are using the model, the interrelation, and how you move one target, how is affecting also the other parameters. You see, everything is interlinked. So it's for discussion. So here in this case, perhaps can you tell us, Augustine, how is the GR evolving in this scenario where 50, sorry, I'm putting 50, it's not, where 50% of, so you are losing a lot of kids because now you just have 50% of kids in general stream by the end of the plan. You are aiming for improved internal efficiency with less repetition and less dropout. Then how this is affecting the GR for general education and the GR for upper secondary in general, all things being equal as far as TVET is concerned. We are not dealing with TVET right now. And when we will be dealing with TVET, this will affect the whole GR. So, or perhaps, yeah, can you read that? And then it's important that you get this fluency in reading those figures.
Yeah, looking on the total enrollments and also the percentage is just looking on what will be the size of the population which is out of the system, not attending TVET or not attending upper secondary, and make sure that we can get or reduce as much as we can the enrollment of this population. Just, I think one of the comments for me is not really if they are in TVET or if they are in upper secondary, is the ones that are not taking any or neither of both options. So
no, but right now we are just asking you, what is the GR? What is the coverage rate for upper secondary? Can someone pop in? It's okay, we can open it. Can
Yeah.
someone pop in? What is the GR in 2020, the baseline for upper secondary, and with only general education and with
So
all the
47.3 is the
yes. And
yeah,
now
yes.
with your and now with all your proposition, where would you go?
Yeah, so
by the end of the plan?
so we'll be decreasing in 1 percentual points at the end of 2030.
But the overall GR, how is the overall GR expanding?
Is expanding from 70% in 2020 and reach 89.2 in 2030.
Do you all see that? So you have an increasing GR. So what is the GR? Can someone tell me the definition, rough definition of GR? What does it tell you? It gives you a sense of
Gross enrollment ratio,
Yeah.
which is how many, the number of students that are enrolled in a specific educational level.
Is it a number here? It's the
Sorry,
unit
a percentage,
is?
a percentage,
Yes.
percentage of the
Okay.
students.
Irrespective
So-
of the age, yeah.
Yeah, so you see, for instance, here, and as I was telling you, you see the line 47 is about the school age population, which will be our best, which we compare the enrollment, and you see that is decreasing. Yeah? So that was what I was telling you, Augustine and colleagues. We are in a system where we are facing a decreasing share, a decreasing number of kids to be enrolled. At the same time, the share of students that is going to go to upper secondary general is decreasing. That's why the coverage, so GR is an indication of coverage. It gives you a sense of, the share of kids that are enrolled, that are going to schools. But here it's a partial, personally, I don't like to compute those GR when they are partial, because really we are interested at the end of the day by the total GR in upper secondary, the one that takes all kids regardless of the stream. We don't care if they are in the art stream, if they are the science stream or TVET stream, they're all in upper secondary. And you see what is interesting here, it's still, you are making good progress already with your assumption to improve internet efficiency and improve access to upper secondary. You improve your GR from 70% to close to 90%. So it's already a very big push. It's already good, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now, perhaps, can you finalize with this discussion on public-private? So now you have this amount or this number of kids that are going to upper secondary general. Now it's a whole discussion, because it's important for the government to know how many kids will go in the government system, because the government needs to accommodate those kids and perhaps support the private sector in accommodating the share that is supposed to go to the private sector. So can you tell us what was your assumption here? And I remember also there were also in Binderland, there were some mention about the share of the private sector. So please, and I will let colleagues also perhaps reflect on this share. So if somebody can Priyanti, you have the good eye. Can you look in the Binderland case study, where is the mention of the share of private sector that the ministry would like to achieve by the end of the plan?
Okay, I'll
Thank you very much. I know you have the good eye, so so please, Augustine, and then we have colleagues pop in. Augustine, we cannot hear you.
No,
Okay.
I just look into the Windoland case, and there's a table of the education expenditure of public sources and private sources, which is almost the 11%.
No, we don't look at budget right now. Budget is not what we want.
No, just on the
budget is a different issue. The budget is just a budget is an illustration. It's a costed illustration of your strategy, of your policies. But there is a statement about what should be the share of enrollment in upper secondary.
It
So
says that 21%, I don't know, shall I read it? Public and
Yes.
private education. In 2020, the private sector received 21% of the enrollment at the primary level. At the lower secondary level, it increased from 6% in 2008 to 12.4% in 2020. at the upper secondary level, enrollment in private rose from 13% to 14% in 2020. Is it the one?
And then, yeah, but what I see in page 18, I don't have exactly, it said what the share of privately provided education increased significantly since 1999. The 1999 Education Act, it remained below the policy target of 35%.
Mhm.
So you are very below what is expecting from private sector. You see, the Education Act is telling you that at some point, the private sector in upper secondary should reach 35%. So here you may want to be a little bit more ambitious. And why the government is doing that because, which is weird, because they have, you see, you have a decreasing population, they have resources. But what you could do is that, so you need to aim for that. So perhaps 35% by the end of the plan is too rapid. I don't think you can aim for that rapidly, because you need to put the system in place. But you can be a little bit more ambitious than what you have put here, just a little bit, in order to ensure that at some point you reach in a more or less near future the target of the Education Act.
Yeah. So
What would you like, groups, what do you think would be a good, I mean, something feasible? And at the end of the day, what you could think of is to establish some subsidies to support kids in this system, in order to ensure that, and here it's Priyanti, and who is dealing with accessibility as well for disabled, it will be your role. We would like to hear from you then, Priyanti, about all those measures and ensure that, you know, girls and disabled are being enrolled. Because the more you have, the issue with the private sector is that it may deter the poorest from accessing. So you want to make sure, and so the advocator will need to make sure that the plan is addressing this issue. So let's try to first increase this share, and then I would like to have the group, so especially Priyanti, but we can have also Roshini, and even we can have Mary from the other group, and Alberta. It's okay, it's not TVET, but it's still, you are concerned with those things. So I would like to, Roshini, Mary, Priyanti, and Alberta, to start engaging in the discussion and discuss with the director of secondary about having in mind those equity concerns. So first, let's change that. What shall we put here? As what do you want? That seems a bit low if the aim is at some point to reach 35%.
Can't we move at least for a half of that percentage? No, that from 35.
Yeah, it is 7. You want that?
Even, yes.
Oops, sorry, I need to put a percent. Okay, let me put 17% then. That's what you would like?
Yes, Isha, we'll discuss. I mean,
Yeah.
go for even half, so we can increase it later on.
So it means right now you are 6%, and you will move it to 17% by the end of the plan. So what do you think you need to do to increase the share of the private sector? You might, what would be your strategy? And here you can play without roles. I think it's more general discussion for you. How do you support the expansion of the private sector? Do you have a clue? What would you do in your country if you need to expand private sector?
We need to get the public-private partnership agreement, and we need to convince that it is also a duty of them or to promote education in the country, and as they also can reap benefits from that in later on, and we can give them some we can give them some privileges or something and get them to enter into this field.
What do you mean exactly by privilege? Do you mean
Privilege means,
financial?
not financial, as for the government, but we can even sometimes we can they have the financial facilities, and if they have certain buildings or classrooms, we can get the we can even we can give them teachers, and we can
Exactly.
provide them with necessary material or methodology on, or likewise we can have a good relationship and cooperation with them and go on. I mean for once, but if they can afford, we can give them some concessions, or for our children students we can issue our textbooks from the government, and we can get into an agreement.
Exactly. Who else would like to complement what Priyanti said? And I think it's already exhaustive. It's you said a lot, Priyanti, indeed. Would someone would like to step in as well? What would you do to support the expansion of the private sector?
And TVET colleagues, you're welcome to jump in as well.
Yeah.
This is definitely something that came up in the case study in relation to TVET. So if you
Let's see TVET where they are. TVET, TVET, let's see what you want to do as private. So here, yeah, you will need to, you closed, but it's TVET as well. You are doubling. You are doubling the share. This is too much. TVET, TVET, actually, for TVET, you already had reached the targets. So for TVET, you should, you cannot, I don't know. Okay, we'll go back
I
to
think
you.
one of the concerns may have been that they were already close, but that there was a concentration. There wasn't adequate regional distribution, if I remember correctly from the study. So that may have been why they've tried to.
So they need just to expand public. And they will need to expand public, but you cannot. This is too much. It means all your sector is private.
Extremely
You're
high.
going to exclude everyone.
Yeah.
So in any case, for you, it's less a problem. It's more an issue of allocation, and then it's a different issue. But then we can discuss that. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, George, you want to step in, please?
I'm sorry, Diana, I've got connection problems.
Yeah,
but
we're sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a background because I work with the Department of Private Schools and institutions.
Good. Tell us.
I have come at a time when a lot has been said. So I don't know what has been said and what hasn't been said. But that
so
is
just
my area.
Just tell what you think, and then we will. It's good to share your experience. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yes. Here in Uganda, what we did when we started the use in 2007, we selected 874 private schools where, because government didn't have enough classrooms and enough teachers. So what happened is that we got 874 schools to help in the implementation of the youth program. So actually what we did was the PPP, public-private partnerships. And that one is very, very crucial in encouraging the the private sector, where government engages with the private sector. But of course, what we did here was to give some capitation grant of 450,000. That's about $50 to each candidate per term, but not in the government schools, but in private schools, and that was a very good way of encouraging the private sector under the public-private partnerships. And I think members know that now education is encouraging public-private partnerships.
Very good. Priyanti raised this issue as well. So indeed, and I think to make things easy, if it is something that the group on upper secondary would like, because Priyanti also said, yeah, we can also post teachers, etc. To make things easy at this stage, you have here a subsidy line for private sector. And I would advise the group perhaps to use this one if you want to promote PPP, okay? And that's something that the TVET group can also, so let's see, it's here. And it's something that the group might want to add. It's here in the block on subsidies. There is to private education. And you can, perhaps this will be more a school grant, but we can fine tune it to a student level if you want. So it's up to you to tell us what you would like, okay? So the private education, it's something that we can think of. We can also attach it to students. No, it is attached to students. Sorry, it is attached to students already. So it's something you may want to add in your strategies. Yes, Asif, please.
I just wanted to add to Priyanti and George. I think in terms of the corporate social responsibility, the private sector, I have had this experience, working with them. Some of the examples that provision of education is also the part of the CSR, the corporate social responsibility, particularly the Chamber of Commerce, the private sector, where they need the skilled labor, and they also strive for the decent job. So I think this is something that they look forward for the future, the generation to produce, kind of the skills and knowledge that is actually eventually going to help them. So I think these are the different arguments that can really, increase the investment from the private sector. That's just a couple of things I wanted to add. Over.
And I think that's very good and well taken. And colleagues, I think it's also important that when you will be revising your priority program, you mentioned those things. I think there will be good arguments for you to remember as well. Yes, Christopher. Thanks, Asif. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to point out that the government can also incentivize publishing house and banks so that they will be able to provide financial support to the private sector, and also the publishing house that supply materials to the private schools can also enjoy some tax reliefs. These will encourage the private sector to expand more.
Yeah, well taken, Christopher. Indeed, it's very important and interesting point you are making. So I would advise groups, whether TVET and secondary groups, take notes, because you may want to refine your strategies. And colleagues are giving very good ideas for you to refine your strategies. Yes, we have George again. Christopher, you done? Okay, we have Michael first. I thought Michael and then George. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was also hoping, or maybe suggesting that when it comes to support for private education, we may also consider supporting the professional development of teachers in the private schools. And then if we could enhance a little bit the cost of school feeding per student within the private school or within the private education sector. That might also be helpful as support for private education. And then also look at issues of teaching learning materials to enhance teachers. The work of teachers may also be helpful.
Thanks a lot for this argument, Michael. Indeed. Then I think at some point, we cannot expect the government to fund public schools the same as private schools. So it has to be kind of more limited, but indeed, it can be to support through school feeding program for all kids, could be to train teachers, or to at least for certain areas, for instance, where you want to see the private sector being expanded, things like that. You need perhaps to a better target. if you do have resource constraint. If not, indeed, you can be more generous. But then at some point, you have to be careful that you are not subsidizing all the private sector, and they also ask for school fees, you know, or they're charged. So, yeah, at some point, you need to perhaps circumcise the support to the private sector. But it's well taken, and it will be a discussion you will have with your groups in the following days to see how you want to tackle the expansion of private sector and what type of support you want. At the end of the day, it is your choice as a group and also as a team, because we will need then to go for some trade-offs discussion. Yes, George?
The other thing that we have done here in Uganda is legislation on the provision of private education, because initially we didn't have a law on the provision of private education, and schools were coming up and how so a favorable contract in the thriving of the private schools. The other thing is also the secondment of teachers. Secondment here, we mean government seconding teachers in private schools. The private schools were not able to hire teachers, and those that they were hiring were those that were not trained, and therefore they were even failing to pay. But the idea of seconding teachers to the private schools also helped in maintenance of quality and standards in private education. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for this very interesting aspects of how to promote private sector through secondment of teachers. I would like now, we would like now to hear from the kind of the inclusive education department. So both Roshini and Mary, you're holding those groups, and the girls education NGOs, Priyanti and Alberta. Now you see the system expanding. So we have been discussing about, you know, there might be some concern for you to see the expansion of private sector. You might also think, you know, in those enrollment, where are the girls, where are the boys, but where are the disabled kids? So do you want to say something and to remind the Director of Education and the Minister of Education? You can talk to him about the importance of tackling those equity issues right from the beginning.
Yes, we hear, actually I mentioned it previously, I think, because the simulation model, we can't see the gender-wise classification. We can only see the number of students. So when we think about the girls and boys, or according to gender, along the gender, in Windowland, we see that although the girls and boys, there is no difference, and also girls are in some percentages, they are higher than the boys. But when we think about the upper secondary education, it is from lower secondary JER, it is 91, but when we compare it to upper secondary, it has gone below to 71%. So there is a gap, so we need to think about that. And also when we talk in regions, the South region is so very different from the other regions. There girls show 66.8% in upper secondary, and also lower secondary, when compared with other regions, it has 65.1. So we would like to give more chance for those students in those divisions and those sections, and we need to reflect it in this simulation model also. We like to reflect that.
So the Director of Secondary and Minister, what do you have to tell? What do you respond to Priyanti? Civil society is strong there. They're really, they have strong arguments for you to to respond to.
I have a comment also in linking to the previous point with the engagement with the private sectors and linking with these geographical and gender and income disparities. And this is in our negotiation with the private sector for them to open in schools or to operate system, is to include in the agreement with the private sector the percentage or the quotes or a system to include in the private schools a student with disability, inclusive education, gender parity, promote opening of these schools in the geographical areas that are unattended at this point. So I think it's part of the agreements that we need to negotiate with the private sector. So I think it's not sure if I respond entirely, but it's something of is at least to share the effort that we do from the public sector to replicate this in the private sector and using our agreements with them for these inputs.
Thank you. Priyanti, are you satisfied with his answer?
Yes, we can negotiate, we can talk, and we can get into a solution to get more for girls, I think. Yes.
And Priyanti and colleagues, when you will revise your priority program, please have those discussions in mind. I think they're important. They are just not here just to, I think it's also for you to enrich your priority program and your plan, okay? So they are valuable and it will be interesting. Thanks. George, and perhaps then I will leave the floor for Talia. I'm speaking too much.
Yes, I think as minister,
you are the minister, huh, George, now. You have the head of the minister. Huh?
And I think I am the minister. But as government implementation of inclusive education needs a very strong legislation where we can base as government to see how we can fund. But you know, when you look at what is presently happening, like in Uganda, we have special schools which are encouraging discrimination. For me, the way I look at it, yes, it is good, but I think we need to talk more about building inclusive schools and inclusive environment where all learners will feel that they are going to the same school, to the same environment, and they are growing and they are learning, they are learning together. I think that one is going also to be a basis for even having more allocations because of the need to create a more inclusive environment for learning, so that no one is left behind, not only for children with disabilities, but also for special groups like the girls and the orphans and those that are in war areas. For me, that's what I would think as minister, and emphasizing the issue of legislation, because that is the basis for implementing government programs and policies.
Thanks, George. I think we can move to the capital expenditure to make the case for the construction and to see to what extent it is reflected, the issues, because building is very much linked to access. So perhaps Talia, would you like to a little bit go through that discussion with the group? And we will have Christopher and Isaac that will be
Sure.
Oh, we have hands.
Yeah,
Alberta,
I do see we have some hands, and I think
Amina,
it's important
sorry.
because we did want to emphasize that everyone should have the opportunity to speak
please.
today. So I'm not sure who, I think Amina was up first. So Amina, if you'd like to go ahead, and then Alberta, next it's over to you. Amina, Director of TVET.
Thank you, Talia. I just want a clarification about the private public enrollment. Could you send us back there, the 17%? private-public enrollment. Yes. So looking at this, the targets, grade 10, 11, 12, 17, 17, 17. Does that mean the transition rate is 100%?
So here it's a different issue. We are not discussing transition rate anymore. We are in the discussion, they are in school. Do they go in public or do they go in private? So they're already transiting. And once they're transiting, we have to ask ourselves, do they go in the public and do they go in the privates? Here we are aiming for by 2030 that among those who are transiting, 17% will be transiting and go in private schools. The remaining will go in public schools. That's what it is saying.
Maybe some of the
Okay.
confusion also came because we hadn't, I mean, I know we haven't fully looked at the TVET tab yet, but since the TVET figures, what they had proposed was very different. I think that maybe there was a little bit of confusion there about what exactly this figure was illustrating. Perhaps for the TVET participants.
The transition is not for public schools only. The transition is for all
Absolutely.
schools. Yeah.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question, Amina?
Sure. Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much. And I don't see, Alberta, I don't see your hand up anymore, but I'd like to invite you to jump in.
George.
I just thought since Alberta hadn't had an opportunity to speak yet, and we had asked her about the girls' education perspective, but okay, George, and then Alberta. We just don't want to forget you, Alberta. George, please go ahead. Maybe it's an older hand or it's a connection issue again. Okay. And sorry, Alberta, I know that you don't still have your hand up, but would you like to jump in? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think that what I wanted to contribute has been said already, but then, well, let me still go ahead and then mention it. Definitely, we always have the boys outnumbering the girls, and therefore, I think that there's a need to make a conscious effort to encourage girls. And then again, also to provide a gender-friendly environment for the girls, and also have sensitize the populace so that they know how important education is for girls. Educating girls is educating them for life. And so this is my stake. This is what I wanted to contribute to the discussion. Thank you.
If I can, I would like, before you intervene, sorry, Roshini, I think there is a bias. Girls are doing better in Vindoland than boys. So it's still important to do girls, but the boys are dropping out. So here, yeah, we want gender separate latrines. We want to make sure that there is no gender-based violence at school, but we have to also think about the boys here. Boys are doing less well than girls. So when we discuss about gender, it's not only about girls. It's about this. It's a social relationship. It's more about roles. So we will go back to also gender roles when we discuss TVET, as well as secondary curriculum, because then there is this tendency to, for female to do this type of subject and for male to do this type of subject. Like usually you won't see girls in STEM as much as boys, etc. But here girls are doing well. So just for you to think a little bit differently, because it's true, we are in a different scenario, but still there is a problem, okay? And it does not prevent the issue of making sure that we are providing girls with a safe environment at school. So yeah, so then I'll leave the floor to Talia to hand the floor to others.
Okay, so, sorry, okay, good. Roshini, did you want to jump in? And thank you, Alberta, just to say thank you. And also, it's true, the Vindoland situation that Deanne pointed out, but it is also true that maybe we made this, a little bit more strategic in that we did give you the role of being a director of a girls' education NGO. So there are both factors. You have an even harder perspective to argue given the particular context of Vindeland. So thanks so much for coming in and for participating.
Thank you.
Okay, and then
I had.
Is that you, George?
Yes, I wanted to make a quick comment. I think what many of African countries have done is overemphasizing the issue of girls' education. And I think that is why you're finding that the boy child is neglected. And I think that is an issue of policy. I think the kind of policies that we are putting in place, having a policy at the expense of one group or the other. And I think just as it is noted when you look at Vindeland, for example, it is good if the girls are doing better than boys. But I think what is behind this is that when we are emphasizing a certain group as a vulnerable group, we should be careful, even the type of policy that we put in place, that this policy is not going to work against the rest of the other groups. So that because now you want to bring up another group in terms of equity, but again, you are going to drop the other one. So for me as a minister, I think my emphasis would be on the kind of policies that we are putting in place so that we don't we don't solve a problem to create another. Thank you.
Thanks so much, George. Then that's, I mean, a very good point and well taken, particularly in the context of Vindeland. But I mean, I think across context, it is good to keep in mind that I mean, we're best placed to move ahead if we're able to address the different challenges that are being faced by different groups. So very well taken. Roshini, over to you.
Thank you very much. It is human rights to access the every child to equal education opportunity despite their gender, language, ethnicity, like that. All the children, girls and boys, have needs to have a equal access to quality education. In SDG goals by 2030, that said that ensure all girls and boys complete free, equitable and quality primary and secondary education. So, but in Vindeland case, it is not directly address the inclusive education, but they said about girls and boys education. So we have to address the inclusive education concept. So we have to adapt the curriculum material for inclusive education. So we need to prepare guideline for at least core subjects and special professional development for teachers. For all teachers require basic training in to identify the children with special education needs in the classroom. Addition to that, the teachers who in the field of inclusive education needs to have in-depth training. And teachers or supervisors, those who are in monitoring position, they also have the training opportunities. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Roshini. You did an excellent job at acting very much as a director of the Inclusive Education Department. That was spot on. So thank you so much for bringing that perspective in. And as Deanne said, you know, along with having these discussions in your groups about, you know, education for girls and boys and these, you know, specific different groups, you would also want to be considering inclusive education and having these discussions within your groups and asking yourselves, you know, whether there are elements that are missing. So this is a very strong point and very well argued. So thank you for bringing that in. So I think we're going to, I think, George, it's an old hand, and maybe in the interest of time, since we have a little bit less than half an hour together, we can move ahead to block 2, looking at classes and teachers. And I think that we are going to ask, let me just see. So the director of teacher training, we have, let me see, Michael and Yaman. Okay. So perhaps since we're on the upper secondary tab still, we'll ask Yaman if you're here. Let me just double check that you are. Yes, wonderful,
Yes.
you are. That's fantastic. So could you give us an idea of how you came about the targets that your group has proposed for block 2, which focuses on classes and teachers? The floor is yours. And of course, colleagues can support, but Yaman, over to you.
And now I'm thinking loud. Perhaps, Yaman, you did not work on this one. I'm not sure anymore.
Hello?
Hi, we can
Yep.
hear you. Please go ahead.
I didn't get the idea about what should reflect about that teacher training in our program, or
Yaman, you were in the what?
should...
Sorry, Yaman, you were in the access group or
Yes.
quality? Yeah, so actually he won't be able to do that, Talia.
But as I understood, we should push it to increase budget or activities about training teacher. Let's try. I read some indicators about the qualified teacher in Finland. It's what should I reflect it in the argument with the colleagues, or no? Or the quality group should do that? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go on.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, and understood. So the idea here would be to be looking at the classes and teachers and these kind of targets that have been put forward by I think the access group for upper secondary. So if I mean, I'm not exactly sure again if you weren't involved in identifying these exact targets. Apologies for putting you on the spot, but I wondered if maybe someone who was Priyanti or
Our group.
were
Augustine, yes, we our group, Augustine and our
yeah,
group.
and Roshini, Roshini, Priyanti, I just wonder if either of you would like to jump in so that we're having a mix of people participating and being involved in the discussions. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the targets for this second block?
Yes, sir. Our group did that with Augustine and ourselves. We did this.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit more about it? That would be fantastic.
Okay. Here we for the study time we needed that document said that these indolent students they lack these skills, science, language, and those subjects were lacking. They were behind the competency level. So we selected these study times like this. 30 total becomes 30, and we decided to have same weight on every subject. And we have decided we discussed, and we just put those numbers to get the study time. I think we have increased. Earlier it was not that. I can refer to the document and just check it out, the number of hours. Is it Augustine? Would you like to add something? No, Roshini?
All fine, Priyanti.
Okay. We did that
We get
request.
what we did. Yeah. Thank you, Priyanti and team.
Okay, and in terms of the pupil class ratios, I'm seeing here that they're saying, okay, the norm is 25, so you're at 30, 30, 35.5. Were there any particular discussions that you had about coming up with those targets? Is there anything you'd like to share about those elements?
Oh no, we needed to include the norm was 25, so we needed to increase it because we need to increase the competencies of students. So we discussed and we increased because the norm was 25, and if we give more. If we need to provide quality education and we can handle the finance, we can allocate these numbers we discussed.
Okay, and you're seeing, so here the description is class is a group of pupils, pedagogical group, not a classroom. Okay, so what you're doing is having a larger group of pupils, a larger pedagogical group than the norm. Is that what you were intending to do?
It says pupil to class ratio, no? So, yes, I think we have missed that. We need to decrease it. So then the students will get more attention and there will be less students in one class. We thought pupil class ratio. Yes, norm is 25. We can make it. It is better if we make it less, I think.
Yeah.
But well
So-
understood. And in looking at the figures, it's true that, I mean, even looking at the baseline, it was quite a bit higher before. So we do see that, you know, even with what you've proposed, for the most part, I guess with the exception of grade 12, you still are making improvements. Was there something, Deanne, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's a norm is something you may want to reach, but it's at the end of the day, it is also if it is feasible, because if you are going from you're going from 37 to 30, it's already good, because each time if you go for 25, and we can put it, you will see that you will need to build more classrooms, etc. It will affect also the number of teachers, etc. So for me, the 30, it's fine. You can test. I think what would be interesting is to test, okay, if you put the norms, you need to recruit more teachers, you need to build more classrooms. So it's to you to test those targets. I have more a question about why the last grade is one of the most important, is why you will take the exams. Why you do keep it so high? I would assume that this classroom, you want to give more chances to kids. So this would be, but again, as Talia said, we would like you to test also those targets, those norms, and to see what it entails in terms of additional resources, teachers, classrooms, and then financial resources. But can you explain to us why you come out, you have left the 35 for that high for, I mean, you remain it flat.
In total honesty, I have to say that we reduced the number in proportionally across with the previous values that were there. It's not any other
That's a good
sophisticated explanations. It's just if we say that I don't know, if the norm is 25 and we are in fact we reduce by something percent and we apply this percent to all of these numbers. But I agree with Pri and T, assuming the rest of the teams, that as close as we can get to the 25 will be the better for our students. Yes,
especially
even with the flexibility, but yes, and if we can have probably the 30 in all of the grades, would be.
Remember,
good,
you
I
have
think.
a decreasing population, so you can do it, but you can really aim for the norms, I think, because you really you have, so you have less kids to put in school, so you can offer them the best scenario. You know, they can almost have so we don't change it, it will be you to change, okay? But remember the setting, decreasing population, yeah, let's aim for the norms, because then you have more resources.
We decrease our population, and also half of them are going to the Tibet. I see. I mean,
it's because it's exactly. So you are even more decreasing. You see, that's why you have a decreasing general education. So, but I think it's good to test the norms first. Then you should aim for the norms, and then if it's too demanding, you reduce. I mean, you increase this norm, for instance. But my first things would have been, okay, let's be bold, let's be, and then we see. Okay. So I just, Talia, please, the floor is yours.
Sure. I see that we have a hand up from Amina. Amina, would you like to jump in?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think these targets are very high. If the norm is 25, we should stick to the norm 25 per class, and then we can expand. We can build more classrooms to ensure quality, because quality in education is very much on quality. All your investment in education will go to waste. Well, at the end of the day, you will not produce quality students. So we can't compromise on quality. So the 30 is too high. We should reduce it. Live with me, in my opinion, we should reduce the 30 at least to 25, which is the norm, so that you can have health.
Thanks so much, Amina. I think you're cutting out a little bit, but I think that the point was well received. And I think that this is more or less where, with a little bit of reflection, I think that's the direction that we seem to be going in, given the context as we discussed, and the fact that we're going to try to be a little bit bold here and aim for the norm, and then we see from there. So well noted. Thanks, Dan, for updating that. Okay. Were there other questions? Okay, there are other targets. Let's see. Any other points as we move ahead? And if not, back over to you, Priyanti, Rashini, and Augustine, to explain these next targets that you've set.
Hello, my internet went off.
Yeah, not a problem, Amina. Thanks so much for contributing. And I think we got your point. Was there anything else you needed to add? And it's been moved to 25, so you were convincing. Thanks so much. Okay. So I'm wondering here whether
there were comment for them.
Okay.
But I don't see it. It's confusing. Okay, it's here. Let me just perhaps I can tell it for colleagues.
Sure.
Colleagues, there were a comment for you here. You did not have that for TVET, but for so here the idea was when it's 1, you have a full matching with the actual and needed number and needed the number of teachers. So the closer to 1, the better. So here you have again an opportunity to get the right number of teachers. So for me, this targets is to make it close to 1 at some point. Because if you see here science, for instance, here you have, this is the number of teacher needed in science. Let's say, let me go to 2021. It's 20,000, okay? Now, right now, if you don't move this target, your number of science teacher will be 14,000. And indeed, it's a 30% gap. If you put one here at some point, you will see that you will increase your number of teachers so that at the end of the plan, you have the number of teachers required for science, for language, and other subjects. So here we would advise you to move those targets to 1 in order to ensure that you fully match the number of teachers needed with the number of actual teachers you will recruit. And this behind you will need to recruit, of course. You get the point of this issue. It's a little bit tricky. Myself, I'm not very used of those of this type of lines, but so really you should aim for that. So sorry, I'm putting it on your behalf, but this will affect your teacher recruitment, etc. It should affect your teacher recruitment. But in language, you had too much. You see, you had too much language teacher. For instance, in 21, you need 20,000 language teacher. You had 33. So those you're not. So what does it mean? What does it mean to reduce the number of teachers over time? How do you do that? You're not going to fire them, right? What do you do? What do you do with those extra teachers? What is the natural movement to get rid of teachers?
Not replacing.
We can train them to teach. Sometimes in our countries to other subjects, we don't have teachers. We can train them for the subjects.
Yes, and that's one solution. Very good. And another one, I heard it.
Not replacing them when they retire.
Yes, you don't replace. Okay. So
I am the head of the teacher union.
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah, I'm Sajid. Yeah, I think in the present situation, teachers have facing many problems. That's the thing is, I think they should lack of planning time and non-teaching task. They have given non-teaching tasks in the schools, as I in the Sri Lanka, and I think Windoland also they have many tasks they have given, and insufficient professional teaching or teacher training also. Teachers are facing many big problems, and the lower salary. So I think they and definitely they have increasing their salary and benefits, and they want to professional not sorry I think they want to the thing is how to call that performance appraisal system. They will need to propose performance appraisal system. That's the thing. I think they will want to sufficient professional. Many professional teacher training need to all subjects. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Very, very on character. Very wonderful. A perfect time to jump in, and very strong arguments defending the interests of the teachers. So excellent job. Okay, I do see that Augustine, you have your hand up as well, if you'd like to jump in.
2 quick points from my side. First one is if we aim to get this ratio going to 25, probably we can make this effort and using these extra teachers to be able to get the ratio to the 24 is one. And the second, we also promise to reduce the dropout rates and the repetition rates. And one of the measures that we propose is to use reinforced class for these students. So we can also use these language teachers for these reinforces or reinforcing classes for those students. So just on the number of the teachers.
So sorry, I'm stepping. So indeed, you may want to have extra then. You may want to have extra if you
just
are thinking
for these 2 concrete measures.
Okay, so perhaps you can have 10% extra. I'll just put that. It's for you to
Mhm.
finalize, okay? Indeed, having in mind that this type of teacher will provide support, or it could be the science or the subject, up to you to decide. Thanks. So the floor is yours, Talia and colleagues.
Sure, I think we still have a few other elements to look at before we conclude this particular block. So yes, we have attrition rate, we have ratio of other personnel to teachers, and then obviously we can move ahead to block 3 as needed. But I wonder if these last 2 targets, the access, where is it, the access colleagues who have been working on this particular element?
No, it's quality.
Quality?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
quality-
again Roshini, Priyanti, Augustine. I don't know who else. Sorry, I don't remember exactly who was in what group. Can somebody who has not spoken and from quality can speak now, so that you have a little role?
Yeah, Diane, are you referring to quality from upper secondary? Okay.
Yeah,
But
it wouldn't be, I mean, you could jump in and maybe try to hazard a guess as to why they chose the targets that they did. But it's true that it's a little bit different than what you would have proposed likely for TVET.
Augustine, who was in your group?
Okay,
and who did not speak? And who did not speak?
Well, even we speak shortly, but I think our teacher union representative can say something. It's Jeda. I'm looking from the list.
Teacher union, can you speak about attrition rate? They have kept it stable. Do you agree? And about the other personnel, what is your position with that?
We can't hear you. We can see you, I think.
Yeah.
It looks like you're on mute.
You're mute, yeah.
Yeah.
No, sir. Okay, so
we kept it at the
Yes.
same level, Augustine. Okay.
Yeah, and assuming that we have Rossini, Priyanti, Cassie. We haven't heard from you, Casey.
Oh, Cassie, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
If you can hear us, it would be great to hear from you.
I think Cassie was on the curriculum side, but please, if you just to hear from you, Tim.
I think the connection might have dropped out, unfortunately, for him. Okay, so I think it's up to you then, Priyanti, Roshini, and Augustine. Unless, of course, Yehan, if at any moment you can unmute and you want to jump in and defend the teacher's perspective again, you are more than welcome. But due to the connection issues, perhaps it's better to go ahead with who's here.
This is the we have kept it at the upper secondary level. The attrition rate for teachers was 2.3. We kept it at that. We discussed that we should make it lower, but finally we selected that percentage. We discussed that we should minimize that, but we couldn't, I think.
I think we forget to disgrace Priyanti.
Is it Augustine? We
Yeah,
discussed that we
see-
should minimize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we say, but I think what we think is that was not in the discussion or in the parts of the plan that we have. Like, for example, the ratio
yes.
with other personnel and teacher, which was something that we have not even like discussed or was not part of the initial discussion. So we keep as it was on the table. So in reality, we don't have any like arguments or reasons for that we listen.
Yeah, I just jump in. These are regular attrition rate. They are not high, they are not low, they are regular. So it's true that unless we know why, so attrition rate is about teachers leaving the teaching force. Some reason might be retirement is the most current one, or they want to resign, or they just die or something like that. So usually what we would like to reduce is those who are, you know, leaving the teaching profession because they're kind of not satisfied anymore. But here we don't know, and this is not high. So indeed, I think lower would be difficult because you have this natural movement of, you know, getting, I mean, living, you know, retiring, you might be sick, etc. And so I saw that, for instance, TVET, you put it low. I think it's a little bit too low, given that this is really a regular level, you know, 2.5, 3%. In countries where you have like, so you cannot, it's never going to be 0%. You always have people resigning because they want to do something else. You have people like, again, retiring, sick leave, long sick leave, etc. So it's something I would not touch so much. So we lost Yaman actually, but he's coming back. So I think now we need to close. So I think also we did not touch on TVET. I think you understand it is the same discussion. So you may want also to revise accordingly. Then how we will proceed. On Tuesday, we will meet each other. What we could have on Tuesday is have a separate, so we will be separate. I think we will be working on our group. Talia, you will be working with your group. And then, but we will be working on this same document. So I don't know if we can be more people working on the same document. I don't know. But in any case, doesn't matter.
Version. Yeah, I mean, the aim for this is that we're using
It's
the
for you,
online version,
so
correct?
we just do that. And then so we are proposing with Talia to meet again on Wednesday and Thursday. We will see where you are on Tuesday, because it's true that now this group, we are a bit more ahead from the TVET, but I think TVET should be quick because you shouldn't go too much into discussion. I think and then on Wednesday and Thursday, we go for a trade-off. You are lucky because you don't have a lot of gap. What we can make it, we could make the gap a little bit more. So you have a gap. What we could make is for you to have a 0% gap. Because right now it's you don't have a lot. You have the gap for certain years, but it's still not a lot. So we will see that. If we keep it to 5% on average, it's an average, it shouldn't be per year. You cannot having a flat gap because you have activities, for instance, TLM, when you procure textbooks, it will be a heap 1 year, and then you won't have those heaps the next year. So the 5% is for the entire plan, okay? We put it here as a yearly issue, but don't worry, it's more the 5% globally, and we will add this information. But then, yeah, so for you, this today and this weekend, please do dream, because but dream not in this, of course, things that are doable, like we had today, you know, what is best for your system, what you want to do. You complete that, and then on Tuesday, we will be still separate. We will be discussing what you are doing, having the gap in mind. And then we have those similar, we have all the session together to help you negotiate with your other group, okay? And of course, this is optional, as Talia said, Wednesday and Thursday optional. So do not worry, we will, you know, it's up to you to come. And also we will take those 2 days, perhaps at some point I will take with you my group to look at your result matrix. That we will do actually on Tuesday as well. And then next week you will have to develop your multi-year operation plan. And I will take a session with you because unfortunately I still will have to go on mission the week of the 14th. But I will be able to have 1 session with you, but I will not be able to have the second session on Friday with you. But so is it clear? Talia, you want perhaps to rephrase things for your group, and then we can close.
I mean, I think everything was pretty clear. Of course, if there are any last questions before you head off on the weekend to be able to continue with your work and meet the deadlines that you have for the course more broadly. Of course, if there's anything that's unclear, now is a moment for you to jump in and ask. But if not, I hope that you found this session helpful today to be able to go through and kind of have, as Deanne said, it will be replicating these type of discussions again for other targets, kind of, looking back. I would say, I mean, for me, one of the things that really came out is how helpful it is to look back at the study, because that really provides you with a pretty strong basis to argue if you want a specific target, or to give you some sort of, a way to frame what you might want to aim for, rather than kind of just having a guesstimate or something like that. So to the extent possible, I mean, align with the case study, have these discussions among yourselves, keep in mind the perspectives of girls and boys, and inclusive education and other groups. And we'll continue with this work. We'll continue with the work next week. But yeah, if there are any questions, yeah, and Deanne, please.
Yeah, I wanted to add, it does not matter if your priority program is not reflecting everything that is here. For instance, we know that you are not dealing with a uniform, you are not dealing with certain type of subsidies. That's fine, okay? Do not worry. But at least we would like what is in your plan to be here, okay? At least we need to ensure that what you're planning to do is here. And again, do not hesitate to come back to us. Well, we're not going to do that this weekend, but with lines you may want to, you want us to add, any intervention that you don't see here, that you would like to see, you tell us, and we make sure it will be there at least on Monday or by tonight. But okay. Yeah, so do not worry if there's, and right now also the targets you will be putting in your priority program and result matrix, the targets they are tentative, they are still preliminary, because until the full model is finalized and you're agreed upon by all of you, you will still need to update your targets. So for me, what is more important for the result matrix for this weekend is that you fill all the information, but it's okay if you don't fill the targets yet, because they will change. So it's less work. So do not bother filling the targets. Still, the baseline will not change. So you can put the baseline, but you don't bother putting the intermediary and the final targets at this stage, because this is not stabilized and it is work for nothing. But I want you to put the structure, to put the right element where they should be, and the baseline, as well as the meaning of verification, but do not bother with the targets yet, because we need to finalize this work. So you understand what we understand by iteration. So it's all the work we are doing. We are discussing targets. And then once everything is stabilized, you will be able to finalize your result matrix, as well as your multi-year operation plan. You will see that as well next week. Yeah, any questions, both groups? Do you feel more comfortable with the simulation model exercise? Yes? Okay, good. You will see, you will have, you will feel more and more. Yeah, okay, good. That's good. We're happy with that.
And you're all clear on where to access this document? Do we need to?
It's on the platform, I think, right?
Yes,
it's on the platform.
It should be, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we can close unless there are burning questions. So we wish you good luck.
Thank you.
We will see each other on Tuesday, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.